Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Kevin Jackson, who is Vice President of Sales at KB Max. Kevin, how you doing today?
Great, Nikki. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So guys, Kevin and I are going to be talking about the rise of B2B2C and what that looks like and how technology sort of plays into that for folks. But before we get into any of that, Kevin, I would love it if you would just give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at KB Max have been up to these days.
Sure. Thanks, Nikki. So I'm the VP of Sales based in Chicago, Illinois, but we are a global company with a footprint here in the U.S. and in Europe. We've been growing rapidly for the last 10 years. Our roots were back in the design manufacturing space, but we've kind of really evolved and rapidly grown into this visual configuration space, which is really exciting and really redefining how we support the B2C experience in the B2B world.
Yeah, and so that's what I was going to ask you next, just to get started, if you could just give an overview of this term B2B2C, just so folks get a little more context around the conversation.
Sure. So B2B, business to business. So you think of General Motors buying parts from one of their suppliers, or you think about B2C, business to consumer, yourself as a consumer buying stuff off of Amazon.com. There's been different experiences. We as consumers are used to something that's pretty easy and simple and fast. We demand that. And in the B2B world, frankly, we're playing catch up because it's not typically that easy to buy between businesses today.
Right. So this is sort of a customer-driven shift, right? Where it's the customers who are starting to crave this B2C-like buying experience. And that's why B2B is going to have to sort of get with it in terms of some of the things that B2C is doing. But it seems like that's going to be kind of difficult, right? Because, I mean, there are reasons why the B2B experience or process, I should say, buying process is not as simple. And that's because, there's typically more folks involved in that process. It's a more complex product. So, how do folks sort of keep that in mind and consider that when they're trying to make this shift?
Sure. So, it's one of those things we've been trained as consumers to be able to buy things easily, right? The reason Amazon caught on is because 9 times out of 10, I can go online, find exactly what I want from the comfort of my couch and have it delivered to my door. In the business world, this is a little bit more difficult, right? Most B2B transactions involve complex products with lots of options, lots of features, lots of choices. Sometimes these price lists can be, hundreds or thousands of spreadsheet lines long, and it's really hard for us as human beings to sort through all that and to figure out what those choices make. And so, at KB Max, we help buyers basically purchase and visually see how those choices that they're making as they're selecting a product evolve real time in terms of the product that they're purchasing or the cost of that product.
Right. And that's where this CPQ technology comes in. And guys, listen, I'm never one to pretend that I know what something means. So full disclosure, Kevin had to tell me what that acronym means offline. But talk a little bit about how that CPQ technology being implemented can help folks sort of streamline the sales and manufacturing process.
Sure. Sure. So if you think about, purchasing anything that has any complexity to it, any different options, right? The first thing you have to do is configure that product, get a price for it, and then get a quote so you can actually make a purchase, right? So, Tough Shed is one of our customers, are a great real world example of how we're actually letting you as a consumer, or if you're a Home Depot employee, and you're actually configuring something for a customer, actually select the product that you want, make the choices and the options and the selections that you want for that specific customer, and drive that entire process from essentially the configuration through the pricing and development of that quotation, all automatically without lots of paper.
Yeah, so that's kind of how you get to that how question that I was asking earlier, and it also leads into this idea of dissolving the sales and manufacturing silos, as we were also talking about offline, right? So if you put these B2B brands in a position where they can prioritize the preferences of their end user, that which is what B2C has been doing for a long time, that's how they get into offering a more B2C like experience, most importantly in a profitable way. Give some more, flesh that out for us, and maybe give a couple examples of that as well.
Sure. So if you think about we'll stick with sheds just because everybody's seen one. They're usually in somebody's backyard. You can, really easily figure out what we're talking about here.
Sure.
When you're going to go pick out a shed, everybody needs a place to store their stuff, but everybody's stuff is different. And everybody's got different amounts of stuff to store. So you basically need to configure a shed for a particular, for you. And at Tough Shed, we let customers build their sheds around the amount of stuff they want to put in the store. They pick out a shed to fill it with boxes, snowmobiles, lawnmowers, shelves, you name it, to fit their specific needs. And allow them to pick the color and the style and the roof tiles and the windows and the doors and where they go and where they're located. And the technology that we use allows people to see this real time. So we can allow you to see the price as I add another window. What's that going to be in my budget or not? Is that going to give me the lighting that I need to see what's inside my shed? And more importantly, behind the scenes, we're designing the shop drawings, the approval drawings, the cut sheets, the bill materials, all the technology that turns that idea that you had as a customer into the things that are actually being produced on the shop floor. We're automating that entire process end to end. So you as a customer are actually the engineer that's designing your product and turning it into something that's actually on the shop floor being produced. And since you as the customer are driving that all through technology, we've broken down all the different silos between the different groups, right? So now we have an end-to-end seamless process that basically starts with you as the customer, whether you're a business or a consumer. It's selecting your choices, configuring your specific product, driving that all the way, across from sales into engineering, across manufacturing, all the way out to the shop floor where it gets shipped and distribution. And so that's pretty exciting. It's redefining the entire company.
No, it definitely is. And it's the type of thing that I talk with marketing and sales leaders alike on this show about all the time, right? Breaking down silos, having a customer-centric, end-user-centric experience, and, removing friction from that process. And you're absolutely right that is, something that, B2B has to start doing exponentially more than we have traditionally, in order to sort of catch up with what the market is asking for, what the like we defined at the beginning of this conversation, what the consumer market is craving. So thanks for laying all of that out for us. And now that I've gotten to successfully pick your brain and see what I could get out of it, I am interested, Kevin, in what you're putting in it. So tell us about a learning resource that you have engaged with recently that it's either been informing your approach or that's just got you excited these days.
Yeah, thanks. So in my job, I spend a lot of time in the car, a lot of time on the road, and I listen to a lot of books on Audible. In fact, if you've ever heard of Malcolm Gladwell, he's got some great books out there around like the tipping points and such, which really kind of gave me great ideas around how our subconscious works and how we make decisions in life, which has been a great resource.
Okay. I like a good book recommendation. I always ask people too, when we talk about books, I'm like, look, are we talking, pages between fingers, or are you listening? And you already let me know that this is an Audible thing. And you're my kind of guy. If I tell you I read a book, unless we're talking about like The Great Gatsby, then I definitely just listen to it. So thank you so much. I know that folks out there like me who are listening and saying, hey, this guy is onto something. I like this approach, are going to want to connect with you. Kevin, tell folks how they can keep up with you.
Sure. So you can find us out at www.kbmax.com or reach out to me directly via email at kjackson@kbmax.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show, man. I think, like I said, you laid it out a lot of great stuff. Get with it, people. B2B2C is the wave. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thanks, Nikki.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.